se você tivesse sua navegação filtrada por causa de interesses comerciais. A liberdade de expressão, a privacidade e a neutralidade da rede são fundamentais para a internet. E esses são apenas alguns dos 10 princípios formulados pelo Comitê Gestor da Internet no Brasil. O CGI.br promove há mais de 20 anos a internet no país. Graças a ele, você tem constante inovação, segurança e diretrizes para o desenvolvimento da internet. Isso tudo é feito de forma colaborativa, transparente e democrática. O comitê é formado por representantes de todos os setores da sociedade. Assim, as decisões são tomadas por meio do diálogo, com a participação de todos os membros até que um consenso seja alcançado. Por esses e outros fatores, o modelo brasileiro de governança se tornou referência no mundo todo. CGI.br, por uma internet cada vez melhor no Brasil.
Quando você registra um domínio .br, você está contribuindo para a melhoria da internet no Brasil. Pois cada domínio que usa o .br é registrado pelo NIC.br, o Núcleo de Informação e Coordenação do .br, que além de registros de nomes de domínios, investe em análise e tratamento de incidentes de segurança, projetos de tecnologias de redes e operações, pesquisas que trazem indicadores sobre o uso das tecnologias da informação e comunicação, implementação de pontos de troca de tráfego local na internet, projetos que contribuem no desenvolvimento global da web e muito mais. Tudo isso porque o NIC.br é uma entidade civil de direito privado e sem fins lucrativos, que mantém uma estrutura de registro de domínio segura, estável e de confiança, e reverte parte do que você paga pelo seu domínio no desenvolvimento de infraestrutura, trazendo benefícios para todos que usam a internet no Brasil. Toda essa inovação, tecnologia de ponta, segurança e infraestrutura só é possível porque você tem um domínio .br. NIC.br, sempre em busca do melhor para a nossa internet.
Bom, então deixa eu aproveitar aqui para apresentar a professora Ana Ferreira. Tá? Ela é uma especialista em cibersegurança, é pesquisadora da Universidade do Porto, em Portugal, cofundadora do Women for Cyber Portugal e mentora do Women for Cyber European Foundation. É autora do livro Hacking Gender's Barriers, Europe's Top Cyberwomen. E, além disso, ela ganhou o prêmio Cybersecurity Woman of the Year Award de 2022, na categoria Barrier Breaker. E também o Most Inspiring Woman in Cyber Awards de 2022, Top 20. Ela também é uma guru de segurança em IT. Então, Ana, a gente agradece aí a sua participação aqui no SBSeg. Pode ficar à vontade aí para falar, para começar.
Olá, boa tarde a todos. Eu não sei se é em inglês ou é em português. Não...
Pode ficar à vontade, como preferir.
Okay, so probably to achieve a better and bigger audience, let's say, I can do it in English. And if there is any problem, we can just please ask me to clarify. So first of all, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And thank you for inviting me here to share my experience in this area, which has been for a few years now, as you will see. I hope it will be interesting to generate some questions in your mind and hopefully see some different perspectives in a different environments and contexts, such as I have been throughout these years. So I'll try to share my screen. Let's see if this works. Please, if it doesn't, let me know. So now you will see myself, and now hopefully you're looking at the presentation. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, good, because I cannot see you now, so I'm just looking at the slides. I don't have to monitor. So thank you again. I will start by introducing myself. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I'm Ana Ferreira. My background is computer science, and I did a master and a PhD. I'll talk about that regarding information security. That's the area where I specialize myself. At the moment, I'm a senior researcher at Synthesis, which is a big research unit from the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Porto in Portugal. So I've been working there for many years now. I also teach, but today I want to share you, as I told you, cybersecurity in a perspective. So it will be a bit of my biased perspective, but I hope it will be useful. I'm trying to give you some ideas of different things, issues, and also the current challenge that it's my opinion that we are facing now in cybersecurity, and will become also that in the future. So the agenda for today is talk a little about my path. Okay, it may not be so interesting. It's a different path from everybody else, I'm sure, because we all have different experiences. But I hope it will be kind of an idea of what you expect today in cybersecurity, and also like what was before a few years ago. It may give you an idea how things evolved. Then I'll stress a little bit about why we should be all for cyber and the importance of that. And then I'll talk about my projects. I'll talk about my recent projects, mainly focus on information security, access control, the ones I'm starting now, but also some that are not so closely related with security, but also that focus on interaction. So how that impacts security and usability. So kind of getting together security and usability. And then I'll finish by giving you, again, my perspective about some issues regarding the current challenges, the current trends today in cybersecurity, and I mean, my opinions regarding these. So let's start a bit about myself. I'll try to be brief in this part. Obviously, you can always contact me afterwards if you want to know a bit more about my experience. So I did, as I told you, a computer science bachelor degree, which was back a long time ago. It was here in Portugal at the Faculty of Science. And then I wanted to do some sort of specialization in my field. I wanted to continue a bit my education. At the time, I didn't know what cybersecurity was or information security was. There was no data, there was no courses or even subjects in high school or anywhere in the high education, in the degrees. So I didn't really know anything about it. I had lots about networks, databases, and all the informatics part, but I didn't know about security. That was not talked about when I did my degree. But then I talked about this with my colleagues, trying to understand, okay, what should I choose now? And one of them, which was someone that was in the background of, also it was from my course, but he was more focused on number theory and cryptography and all that, and told me about data privacy and how maybe that could be an interesting issue for the future. I didn't know that by then, but obviously it is what it is now. So I looked for courses around. Obviously, I'm in Europe, so I was looking in Portugal. There was nothing. I was looking more around. There were not many available. I found one in UK. There were some available at US, but I didn't want to go that far at that time. So I opted for this one. So it was an MSc in Information Security at Royal Holloway, University of London. It's still there. It's still growing. It's still a very, kind of with good reputation degree with many interesting people there. And it was very nice because for me that I didn't know anything about it. I was happy to gather a lot of knowledge about the area, because it was not only cryptography or number theory, but it was about many other things, including human factors, legislation, network security, database security, and many different areas where you could apply security. And I started to understand how security was orthogonal, transversal to many, many different areas. So that was a good thing for me. It was really nice. And then I followed on that area. Then I was lucky to do a training at the HP Labs in Bristol in UK as well. That's where I started to focus more on the research part of cybersecurity. So at that time, I didn't know what was writing an article or doing research, but then that's where I started, and it actually stick with me until today. I chose to focus more on the research part of that, and that's why I then tried to follow to do a PhD. I did a PhD in Kent at University of Kent in UK. It was focused on access control. I'll talk a bit more about access control in one of the research projects that I have. And then I followed to do a postdoc at the University of Luxembourg. So there they have a specific research center that is focused on privacy, security, and trust, which was really a nice environment in terms of cybersecurity focused research. And I participated in a project called Socio-Technical Aspects of Cybersecurity. So to integrate technical, social, the interaction between the technology. And then I came back to Portugal. I'm still at the Faculty of Medicine at Synthesis, as I told you, trying to participate in many different projects that I will tell you about. I'm also a frequently expert participating in the evaluation of EU projects, focusing on this area, obviously, which has given me a lot of good background and good experience, and try also to understand what is coming next and try to also be involved in it. More recently, I'm also an advisor of ENISA, which is the European Agency for Cybersecurity as well. I'm a group member and also try to collaborate in giving with my expertise, giving back, but also learning a lot about the area and where to go next. So basically that's it. I'm also a lecturer. I was actually in a lecture a few moments ago. I had to finish a bit earlier. I was teaching in the specialization course called Digital Technologies for Health. So we're trying to integrate, how to produce better and more usable and more better interaction interfaces for healthcare. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. And also I participate in Master of Medical Informatics. I teach in a Health Data Science doctoral program, more focusing on security usability. And then I also teach in the Master of Applied Cryptography, where, well, Master is in cybersecurity, but I teach in the Applied Cryptography subject. And then I also need to do some supervisions when the students are brave enough in the Faculty of Medicine to want to know more about cybersecurity and explore their subjects and interconnecting health and their background in health into the cybersecurity field. So that's about me, enough. So in terms of my background, that's it. So why we should be worried about diversity in cybersecurity? I think for me, cybersecurity is about privacy. It's about guaranteeing our fundamental human right, which is to protect our data, to control our data. We have the right to know who is accessing our private data, for what purposes, when, and that's important. We need to have control for that. I mean, it's registered in the United Nations as a fundamental human right. And I think cybersecurity, but what I like to prefer to call information security, but now it's the trend, cybersecurity kind of embraces all. So it's about protecting and guaranteeing that data is private, that people really are managing to control that privacy. And it's very difficult to do that when you have the same groups of people, many times closed groups of people, researching and doing and developing solutions for the diversity of the world that we are. Obviously, we have people that now use technology for many different things. We cannot live now without technology, from children, younger people to older people, to perform a myriad of activities, learning, teaching, working remotely, having fun, watching videos, and so on. So all of that requires, obviously, protection. And if we have a same group of people just trying to develop for this kind of context, it's very difficult, obviously, for them to adapt to the needs, to the ways people do, to the different perceptions that people have while interacting with the technology. So it hasn't been working very well, I should say, until now. And I probably give you lots of examples from the healthcare domain. So in the healthcare domain, we know that there are specific groups that develop for patients, chronic patients, or even if it's not patients, like for fitness and nutrition. So many different people interact with technology. And if we have just the same mindset developing for such a myriad of people, it's not going to be able to adapt well to the people that are going to be used. So we'll need to study all possibilities. I don't know if you know, but the cars, for example, is a good example where we tested mostly with men, for men with a specific characteristics. So we didn't test cars. There weren't many studies for cars to be tested with women, and probably not men, also with children. So obviously this takes risk. We take more risk when we use technology that was not tested to our needs, to our problems, where the risk was not mitigated for the people that are going to use it. So that's very important for me in terms of diversity. It's not only a question of gender. Obviously, that's also important. We need to build also for more than 50% of the population, but also even within those groups, we have a lot of diversity, lots of needs, and lots of ways of interacting and thinking that need also to be taken into account. In the end, the technology is to provide to support us, and obviously you cannot just provide the support for a few people because we all are into it now. There's no way out, I would say. And there's also the question of accessibility. Obviously, this is kind of specific if you think, okay, blind people, people with cognitive impairments, with problems even the mobility. So probably they cannot interact and cannot perceive the way they interact with security mechanisms the same way as other people do. So it's just, let's say, a use case of the diversity that we are already. And we also can have problems regarding I mean, I'm getting old. I don't see as well as I used to, and I may have problem with a hand. I may break a finger or a wrist, and I may not be able to interact properly also with the technology as I should on a normal, let's say, day. So in terms of security, for example, if you think about this captcha so for some reason to detect that you are not some sort of robot or an alien, then, for example, if you are blind, probably you cannot see what they are asking to you to select in the image they produce. And sometimes even I cannot see exactly what is there. But usually this is not thought about. Okay, that's not good because it's not good for the person. It blocks out these people that may not be able to properly interact with the system. But it also, if you think, oh, can I just use sound and people can hear? Maybe the person can also not hear very well. And even if they can, they probably cannot, if they are in an environment which is not very secure, probably other people will hear it or something. So we need to think also about these things. And I think accessibility in cybersecurity is an area that really needs a lot of people studying and researching. So if you are interested in that, I think this will be really, really nice and with good impact. But we know this will not happen overnight. We know there is a lot of lack of experts in this area already in IT, but specifically in cybersecurity, we have a lot of lack of expertise all worldwide. So it's not something that it's not, it's worldwide. So we can see that. So what is the main barriers, let's say? For me, it's more about culture. So in the family context, we already are trying to divide people. Okay, so you should go to this area, you should go to that area. So culturally, we have the social pressures that sometimes even at schools, for example, we put ourselves in let's say in small boxes, and we cannot get out of it because we're not given the freedom to try and test everything and decide for ourselves many times. So things are already defined for us, and that's something that should not that should finish. I mean, this should not happen. And there's also a lot of talking now about inclusion, diversity, and everything. But in the end, it's something to actually, the mental models are hard to crack, are hard to change, and behaviors are also hard to change. We need to make sure that we give the same opportunities to everybody, the same information, and that they can decide for themselves. I'm sure if you think, okay, this is not for me, cybersecurity, I don't know maths, I don't know anything. No, it's not true. Cybersecurity is not only about maths. So we really need a lot of different expertise in order to be helpful, to have really meaningful solutions that work. And then we still don't have also the infrastructure. So we need, let's say, a healthy balance in terms of profession, of home, of the way we teach and learn, and so on. So, and again, we have a lack of resources. So if you don't have resources, if you don't have expertise available, obviously it's very difficult to motivate others to come to our group, and it's all of this is like a circle that it's hard to get out of. But obviously we need to do something. We are here in this conference, I'm sure we are very motivated in order to do it well for ourselves, to do it well for others, and also to pass the message to the others that are coming, to the rest of the community. But now let's focus on our projects. So our projects are, I'm talking about 3 projects. So one of them has already finished. One of them is Tag You Big, Taming Your Big Data. It's about access control. So I'll start with that one. So what was the problem here? This was something that after all of my research and experience that I had, I would like to improve the way access control is being made. Well, if you talk about the healthcare domain, you would see that, okay, most of the things regarding access control don't happen, because usually people are working in teams and someone makes login to the laptop or to the computer that is there in the room, and everybody just shares passwords, and obviously this is not very good, because then we don't have control of something bad happens, or obviously is not the way to do it. But there is also an issue of usability there, but I'm not going to there yet. So for me, the idea is that every interaction that you do, every button you click, every link you access, every page is unique. Because even if it is the same button pressed twice, it is already done in a different time frame. So it's something unique. So for each unique interaction, you can associate many different factors. You can associate contextual factors. You are in a location. You're accessing a specific type of data. You're accessing with a specific device on a specific network. It can be a Wi-Fi cafe, or can be in the conference, for example, or at your home. So all of these characteristics, all of these factors are associated with a risk. So the risk can be higher or lower, depending on, obviously, of these factors. So if you can actually associate with each interaction that risk, you can adapt to the need of more or less mechanisms of security mechanisms for that specific interaction. So how to do that? Well, we defined the model that would integrate all these issues. So the model is actually here. It's not very, you cannot see very well. I don't think I have it here. I should have it here. So we have, it's very small, sorry for that, but the idea is it is based on RBAC. So role-based access control model is the most common model used in healthcare, although many times, as I told you, they're not really implemented in practice of the systems. Usually you just have like doctors or nurses as the main access control, and some administrative people, probably. These are the main profiles. And many times you don't even have that. So you just access the system, you can access everything there. So it's based on RBAC, role-based access control. And then you integrate in the decision. So you have an access control policy decision that it integrates also the type of network that you're using, how secure it is, the type of device, maybe the software that you might have in your device, if your Bluetooth is active or not, so that can create, and what version of Bluetooth. So, and also if you need to execute some break the glass situation, so access, do not care with the policies that are there predefined, but just access in an emergency situation, for example. So you can have all these, whilst you integrate all these contextual factors from that specific interaction, you can decide, the policy motor can decide, okay, what is the risk of this interaction? What can we do in order to improve its security if it is needed? So obviously this is the model. It was modeled at the time. And we have some use cases where to propose this model. So in this use case, you can see someone that is, there's problems, cognitive problems, Alzheimer probably. She's a mother of someone, and she needs to stay within a specific perimeter. so that she cannot hurt herself or get lost or, get out of this. So the idea is the doctor has access to some sort of where the mother is. She manages the consultations, she manages all that is related with the mother, but she lives a bit farther and she needs to work. So during the day, so sometimes it's difficult to monitor what her mother is doing, if she's okay, if she's within the house or she has gone outside and so on. So in this case, she has access to an application that can remotely detect where her mother is, her location. But there is a risk of this, obviously. If she's accessing from her home, probably the risk is lower. She has hopefully VPN and she has a network with the proper measures and so on. So accessing with her own devices, so the risk would be considered lower. For example, she's at work. She receives a message saying that, okay, the location of her mother, her mobile phone that she has with her, hopefully all the time, is outside the perimeter, the physical perimeter. Then obviously she's accessing from work, so it doesn't. With another device, probably the risks there are a bit more. Someone may also have access to this information somehow. But in that moment, she needs to understand, okay, her mother is not in the safe place, in a safe perimeter. So I'm sorry, there is some sound here. Just a moment. I think I need to verify something. Can you please mute yourselves? I'm sorry for this. I think I'm having some issues. Just a moment. I just need to switch off here because I'm listening something and I don't really know if it is from my side. So I'm really sorry for that. I'll just reshare again quickly. And I hope you can see it. So sorry for this, always technical issues. But so the idea is, in this situation, she receives an alarm saying that her mother is not on the safety perimeter. So accessing this information is already has some sort of risk. But then she's at work, she cannot access and go take care and look for her mother. So she provides, the model provides some sort of delegation that she could get someone that is within their list of contacts, which is obviously integrates more risk, so it integrates very high risk. And it's like a taxist, some taxi driver, sorry, someone that can go, she can share the location of her mother with this person, what we call a break the glass situation. So in an emergency situation, she can share this information, and afterwards it's a temporary access, so she can shut it down. But meanwhile, she needs to know if her mother is well. So it's an access that is controlled with a high risk. So in the end, the person can go there faster and go, because he's already warned that please do that. And then let her know if something is well or if she needs to do something. So this is like to demonstrate like an access that is temporary, that is an emergency situation, and the various levels of risk and the different contexts, let's say, and factors that intervene when you perform some sort of, in this case, a data sharing and access to data that is supposed to be private. Another thing is actually about the same, but this is probably you cannot see very well, but it's the idea of, again, adapting to the context, to the factors that where you are accessing data. For example, you are at a pharmacy, you have your mobile app, My Health, and you're trying to check about the prescription regarding your medication, if you see if you have some allergies to that medication. So you are at a pharmacy in a local in a public space, probably with a public Wi-Fi, and you try to access personal and confidential data and health data, which is even more sensitive. So how can you use, in a way, visual as well as other protection mechanisms? So before you go to your application, you can see everything. You have access, obviously, it's your application. You can access all the information that you want regarding yourself, your exams, your prescriptions, your profile. But then if you are in a context like that, maybe the application and the mechanisms should be adapted to that specific situation. So if you are in a public space, probably someone is around. If you are in a public Wi-Fi, probably is not the best, the most secure way of accessing this information. And in the end, you can probably visually and also in other ways protect and improve your confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So in this case, if you are at a pharmacy, you probably just need to see medications or prescriptions, let's say. But obviously, you can always have more info. You can always access everything that you want. This is not about blocking your data. It's about bringing the data that is needed at that moment. And it probably doesn't need your name. You don't need your name there, right? You don't need the name of your doctor there. You just need actually the information that you're going to use for that specific context. So you just focus on that data. You have less information, less personal information there. You can even make it more available by focusing on specific important issues, like, for example, allergies to medication should be clearer to you, and so on. So the idea is not to actually filter or block information by default, but if you don't need really to have that information there, it doesn't need to come through via insecure channels, then why asking it? Obviously, if you need to do it, then you do it. But at least you need to have some sort of adaptation to the risk that is there. So that was the main idea. In the end, this was a project that the team was very small. So it was mainly, I was the principal researcher, and I had two master students in different times to help me with a proof of concept. Then I had 2 years in pandemic. Obviously, we use pandemic for excuse for everything. But the fact is, most of it, I could not try with the users. Most of the times I could not actually interact with people to try and make it like, instead of a proof of concept, make it at the practical interaction and to see and make sure that I would get more feedback. So that was not possible. But still, there was some interesting results that I hope to take it further, hopefully in the near future. So that was TagBig. I don't know if, I think the questions are supposed to be in the end, but if you have anything that you cannot really miss, please ask me, let me know. So now I'll go to the next project. This project is called AniMap, which is Anonymous Digital Twin for Human-App Interactions. So this project is still going on. It finishes at the end of this month, actually. It was an exploratory project, 18 months only. Is not, the main issue is not really security, but as you will see, it is also important, an important part. So in healthcare, as I told you, I'll give you examples of the healthcare. The main idea is that we have a lot of technology. We have all these mobile apps that come every day. But the fact is, it's very difficult for people to adhere a continued use to that technology. And especially with chronic patient diseases, we know that this could be very beneficial to support them in their self-disease management. But many times there are issues regarding errors. Privacy and security is one of the 7 grand challenges today in order for people to adhere to technology, because if they think they don't trust technology, they think what they're going to use my data for, there's no transparency and so on. So it's one of the big barriers. It is in the literature. It's one of the big barriers why people don't use technology, and in healthcare, why patients don't use it many times. So that's one of them. And also the interaction, the symbiosis, what they call symbiosis with the technology. So they don't see themselves into it. They don't see the benefit. They don't use it. It's not easy to use, intuitive. Many times usability is all wrong. It was not tested probably previously. So the adherence to technology, healthcare, not only in healthcare, it's very important, because otherwise, why are we trying to develop technology that no one will use or won't have beneficial impact? So the main idea was to, okay, so as I learned during pandemic, This was not easy to recruit people, to get them physically there, to test things, to develop things. So in the end, I thought, okay, if you cannot do that, maybe you can do that online. You could do that in a framework where we can simulate interactions, the things we want to test, the ideas even. It could be an application that already exists, or it could be something that doesn't exist, but we can just draw 4 or 5 interfaces and make people interact with it and see if it works. So what we call the agile methodology, we could use that, for example. So we'll have these interactions, gather information about that, and also collect data regarding not only the logs, but then we could include not only the simulation, but also gather information like an online survey. So we could ask, okay, did you like this application? What were the problems? Was it easy? And so on. So we could ask about the usability of this. So we are already in the second use case. So this month, one of them will be live, hopefully for a week, so we can gather that information. Was one of the first use cases that we use. So you can see at the beginning, we have information obviously about the project or the goals. So in Europe, we need to abide to GDPR, so data protection regulations. We need to tell people about what are the goals of the project, if they are collecting any personal data regarding themselves, obviously, and what we do with it, what protections we have. So we have 2 interfaces here to describe this, and if people consent. In this case, the part of security is that we wanted to do it online, but anonymously. So we wouldn't ask any information that was personal, identifiable. We wanted to do this anonymously. So as an anonymous survey, hopefully that is anonymous, and we would gather data without knowing, without having information to identify the person. So in the first part, again, information about the project, data protection issues, and so on. And if the person agrees to participate, even if it is anonymous, because still people may not want to participate, they would say so, and they would advance to the next stage. So the next stage would be, in this case, regarding, okay, it was about the hypertension application, mobile application that exists. It is available in the stores. So it was regarding some demographics about the user. Okay, age interval, about if the person had hypertension, because the application was about it, if it was being followed, and so on. Very generic questions. And then at the middle, you see here interfaces with a lighter touch. They were the real interfaces that exist. So here we were testing about educational videos, how the person could measure hypertension, what would be let's say, the best practice to do that. And so they would interact with this part of the prototype. And then at the end would ask things about, okay, did you enjoy? Was it easy? Did you find the videos useful? So we can ask many things, right? So regarding what you want to know, our goal, we can adapt to what our goal is. And then we'd collect this. So we have this data, we are still analyzing it. And we have many things still to do until the end of the project. But the main idea is, the main difference is, while it is being anonymous, it helps us to gather more data more quickly and more information, in a way, richer information. Obviously, in a study with the people in a room, you can also do that, but it takes more time, costs. People may not show up many times. And obviously that can be bad. But in terms of usability, when you use real people, usually the average is about 6 to 8 people, which is already a good number. I mean, yeah, if you're used to quantitative numbers, okay, this is different. But online, you can gather more information. But there are also obviously disadvantages. You don't know who they are. There may be someone just answering randomly. But still you can control that by sending to specific groups of people. Obviously, then you have to be careful about privacy and about anonymity and how you aggregate data and what you ask. So that is the Anima project that is being, so it ends this month. But hopefully I can reuse this work. So this is what I was telling you about. Can gather information about demographics, logs, perceptions, and you can still, even if you have enough information, draw some idea about the personality of the person, the behavior, how they interact, and some of their perceptions while interacting with specific types of applications. So then we go to the other project. This project started in July this year. So it's called DRAPE, Designing Trust and Privacy into Research. So the main idea is to, okay, we have GDPR in Europe. So most of you, I'm sure, know about this. So General Data Protection Regulation is an European regulation that is, let's say, translated to the various state members in order to protect data privacy. So it has a few requirements. So the main thing is if you are processing personal data regarding European citizens, you need to abide to a specific requirements. You need to ask for consent. It needs to be within the legislation what you're doing with it. You can do research with it, but obviously you need to ask for an informed consent in order to be able to previously of gathering data in order to be able to process that data. And you need to do it with the specific security measures, you need to provide for, it states really in the legislation, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So the three main dimensions are there, right, written in the legislation. They talk about pseudonymization as something to be used, encryption as well. So all the security measures that need to be applied in order to protect your data. And these are also applied to manual procedures, like files, like, I don't know if you ask for paper surveys to gather data, personal data. From the moment you gather that, you need to abide to the requirements. You need to process it securely as required by the legislation. So this is about GDPR. The problem is most of us don't know, we're not law as a background, we don't have law legislation as background, so we don't really, we are a bit lost and we don't know how to do this in practice. And so in the practice of research even further. So many people, as I know, and I work with people from healthcare. So within Faculty of Medicine at the University of Porto, there's only one cybersecurity specialist. So I integrate teams that have most of the times developers, engineers, and so on. They may have some knowledge of this, but most of them are health professionals. And obviously, I'm trying to make the most of it, and we need to give this knowledge to them. But many other research areas, many other these research groups, unless they are focused on cybersecurity, don't have someone to help them. So we have DPOs, but sometimes DPOs are from other areas. They don't even have the knowledge. They don't have the knowledge in terms of privacy, data privacy, and the IT part of the technology part. So that's a lack that we need to think about. So regarding this project, the main idea is, okay, how can we make sure we are compliant with GDPR while doing research? So from the moment we define or describe or write a project, an application for a project, we know that what studies we are going to do, if we are collecting personal data, if we are in healthcare, so I'm sure we have sensitive data that we need to protect. But how to do that? How can we help researchers that don't know, they're not experts, and they don't need to be experts in all the legislation or in cybersecurity? Obviously, it would be nice if they had some notions, but we need to help them somehow. So the main idea is now to design and implement like a coaching tool, a framework, in order to help them, guide them in what would be the best practice to use during their project, basically the execution of the project, what type of data they are using. Okay, if they are collecting personal data, they need to ask probably for an informed consent. For that specific data, what kind of, we could provide them with a template, for example, an informed consent that would help them already, okay, have an idea what they need to ask or they need to do in order to ask for someone for that consent. So that will help them as well. Always also, okay, what other requirements are there? Okay, if they are gathering genetic data, for example, how they are going to gather that? They need to make it store them securely. What kind of technologies they could use? What type of, also we need to know what type of resources they have available in order to do that. So what kind of advice we can give to them in order to protect their data. So the main idea during the next years would be to focus, in this case, in researchers from the healthcare, But I'm sure, and I'm hoping this could be also applied to and help other researchers from other areas. But we will work on that. We'll work to find out what are the practice now, if they are really doing something, how they do it in order to manage a project, what software they use to gather data, if they use a lot of paper and so on, and try to understand better how can we have a coaching tool that is not only a thing with a list of recommendations that they won't read, or something that asks many questions, but then in the end, it's very difficult to interact with and people won't use it. So again, usability is very important. But something that is more like a visual thing where can kind of guide them into, okay, if you're using a study, you're doing personal data, so what can you do in order to protect it? If you're using files, where to store the files, what kind of technology you would have to protect those files? If, I don't know, login and password would be okay. If you are sharing with other teams outside the organization, or if it is something that you're doing pseudo-anonymization. So there are many things. I don't want to bore you without these many different types of things that could be when you have a project. But it would be nice to learn more about that and how can develop this tool. Yes, so that's mainly about my research projects now, specific to, obviously, to cybersecurity, because I participate in many others which are focusing on healthcare, so developing mobile applications for chronic patient diseases, how to improve them, how to make them more useful, and so on. Obviously, integrating the architecture, all the security that is required, including compliance with GDPR. So changing a little bit now, in terms of projects, this is more, I won't say volunteering, but more about my also personal interest in giving back somehow to the community. So as the presenter was saying, I'm part of Women for Cyber. I'm a founder of Women for Cyber chapter in Portugal. So Women for Cyber Foundation is an European level. So it tries to promote in different member states the creation of communities of women in this area. As you may know, we are very few. We are already few professionals and much less women. We are a very, very low percentage of women in this area. And as you saw, it's very important to drive more people, more groups of people in order to have more expertise in this area, working and producing this area. And so this is a way of trying to reach out to more women and find out what is the community in Portugal and support them, and women that want to change from other areas and they want to, let's say, upskill, reskill in this area would be really interesting. So I'm part of this. I'm also mentoring for Women for Cyber Foundation, and it's been really, really interesting. I'm learning a lot, and it's really, really nice to see our community grow. But the thing is, it's very difficult already when you are an adult without in other areas, but it's also very difficult to focus on younger ages. So how we tell a girl and motivate a girl, it sometimes is even difficult to motivate a boy as well. But it's very difficult to pass the message clearly. So in 2022, I did a specialization course in design, again with my interest in improving interaction and then gathering interaction and security. And I did that, and there was a project there, which was an individual project. And then I decided to try to develop a game. So something of a game connected with cybersecurity that would be sort of showing younger girls how it is interesting to do all these kinds of things, but also not only with the main interest of making them aware that this area exists, it could be interesting, but more as for information, for awareness, for telling them, okay, there are these issues, that we have risks while interacting with technology, you need to know them about them. And in the end, I did a small prototype of a game. Okay, the project, I mean, it was just a few months project, because, you know, the degree at university, we have not very much time for projects. But it was really interesting because I focus on girls from 10 to 11 years of age, which here in Portugal is the stage where they change from primary school to more advanced, and usually where they start using more technology. They are given a smartphone to interact, to call parents when they have problems, or when they leave early school and so on. And that could be a good age, I would think, to explore how, okay, before having bad habits, let's say, forming bad habits, to start having a basic idea about cybersecurity, the problems, the risks that they have while interacting with technology and with each other. So that was really interesting. I did a small project. I asked girls, interviewed them, and so on. And it was interesting to know that at that age, girls that obviously have been in school since at least 6 years old, they have very different knowledge of cybersecurity, of passwords, for example, how to protect them, what is a strong password, what is not a weak password. So we see that this knowledge is not given to them. Obviously, it's not in school, as I'll show you, but it's something that it should be done because first, again, they don't have interest, they don't know about this area, so that's not good. But then to protect themselves as well is not good that they don't know. Some of them know, probably their parents told them. Some may have the luck to at school be told about it, but unfortunately, this is not something that is a common practice, and so we have this disparity of knowledge, which obviously is not good. Then what I did in the following year, I used the same game and went to school in a class of 6-year-olds. So the idea was, okay, I think we should start earlier because they start earlier. So what to do? In fact, here at school, at 6 years old, every child in the public sector, they are given a laptop with the internet access, unlimited, no questions, no basic information about the risks, no nothing. So in the end, they are given this full potential and all lots of risks that they don't know how to obviously protect themselves. So I went to this class and I played the game that I did with them. Okay. They mostly were very interested, which for me, they kept asking questions. Sometimes it was difficult for them to relate to the physical world about, okay, would you talk to strangers outside, or would you give information about your address to someone you don't know, and things like that. So sometimes it was not really easy for them to relate that. But then once you told them, they really understood the problem. So I think we have something there. We need to start younger and make our communities and our societies, cyber aware in this way and protect themselves. So it was really nice experience, and hopefully their parents also took some of the message, because I put some bullet points for them with cards to take home. But obviously this is just an individual thing that I did in order also for myself to try and see, okay, what can we draw from here and how can we make some impact in this area. And then also in the same year, I decided to get some funding for a project that would try to understand, okay, in Portugal, in the public sector, what is the information that is being passed at schools to kids? So from ages from 6 to 12, if there was any kind of information, any kind of education during the curricula at school. And I'm still analyzing the data, and then I can see that again it kind of reflects what I thought previously. Now none of this is done in a structured way. It's not obviously mandatory in the curriculum. They don't usually talk about that. They talk about security and safety in the streets, how to cross the street, and so on, how to protect themselves. But the same does not translate to the practice of interacting with technology. And so the idea would be to give them numbers in order to be able to force somehow, I don't know how, but to integrate all this within at least basic rules, basic security rules before they interact with the laptop, with the free internet and everything there. So Yes, so this is something that I still have to report about, but it is really interesting to know that we have a lot of work to do, and we really need to keep doing it, basically. So we reach the last part of the talk. I hope I'm still okay with time. I'm sorry if I'm not. Hopefully, yes. Um, so regarding today and tomorrow, so what are the current challenges? Obviously, again, this is my perspective, and according to the experience that you saw that I have, at least what I could show you until now. So I'll talk a little bit about privacy, about IoT and mobile, cloud, autonomous vehicles, AI, post-quantum, ransomware. So don't worry, I'm not going to go deep. It's just my idea, perception of what we should be doing, or what we need to pay attention and then be aware of. So in terms of privacy, I think, again, I'll focus on this. This is my main, let's say, center point where I can start, okay, what can we do about privacy? How can we protect ourselves? So we need to start thinking about, okay, do we need to have privacy? That is the first question. Because maybe we don't need to have privacy. Maybe we can analyze data or collect data that is not identifiable, that doesn't need protection, or there are several layers of protection. Maybe if you don't need it, then we don't use it. And in many cases, we don't even think about it. For example, you are doing a survey, you're asking questions like, okay, what is your home address, your postal code, what is, maybe you don't need that information really, and that information is identifying very much the person. So maybe you don't need it. So you don't need it, don't use it. It's like minimization. Just use whatever is really needed for your work so that you have less trouble. But if yes, if you have to use it, then again, try to use it at least as possible, and try to integrate it as security by design, privacy by design. That means, okay, while before even you start working on it, try to guarantee you have the proper security means in order to minimize the risks in terms of privacy. But I'm sure you've heard about, again, also some techniques that you can use in order to also access data and process data without actually making it less protected. So we have homomorphic encryption. You can actually process data without decrypting it. And then we have differential privacy. You can aggregate data and, again, do analysis without exposing whatever is there, without reaching the real, original, and personal or sensitive data that is there. So all these technologies, I know they are not still much available. They have some issues about performance, but they are very much within the projects that I've been looking. So people are tending, they want to use it, they want to improve them. And so I'm sure that will be in the near future some more developments regarding these technologies, and I'm sure we will be able to use them more and integrate them into our security architectures. I think it's going to be great. Then we need to talk about IoT, in this case, the Internet of Medical Things, because obviously it's where I focus more, and also about mobile. So we'll have lots, each one of us has a mobile phone, at least one, and many times you don't think about it. You just assume, you just trust, and even if you are a security aware person, sometimes you just neglect things and forget to mitigate your risks. So we all know that more and more IoT is there. We have many sensors, many devices collecting data everywhere from variety things, how many parameters and factors that it may be that they are maybe anonymously integrating them, which usually they are not. But once aggregating and talking into groups, I'm sure they can triangulate information and know a lot about you. But the problem starts before that, because these sensors, and especially in the medical area, many devices, many sensors that connect via signals and sensitive information, they don't have any kind of security or privacy integrated into them. I can give you the example of the wireless insulin pump that it has many times the password is there. So and clear, and you can just access to it and change it and do whatever you want. And that's only one example. There are many, unfortunately, that can cause serious impacts in the health and lives of people. So there is no, they are not thought as to integrate security by principle, by default. So there are many times these devices don't have any kind of security. They were not built for that. They were not thought to have that. And that obviously will have many consequences in the future because they all talk and communicate with each other. Even if some have security, others won't. So we need some kind of standardization that helps us and some legislation. We have also in Europe a legislation that is trying to focus on this, trying to make sure that we have security implemented by design. And let's see how that goes. And also the evaluation of medical devices. So it's very difficult, even if you have the regulations, to put it into practice. It takes a lot of time, and sometimes technicians and the ones that have developed and defined the policies haven't talked very well with each other. So it's something that you need to be careful. And also the mobile. I mean, we have mobile. It's something that many times we don't think about putting protection, anti-malware, or VPN, or so on, and or even lock it properly. So that can be very problematic, especially also in the professional environment, in companies, even in university. So you mix things, you mix personal accounts with professional accounts, and it can be a real mess. I also want to talk about cloud because obviously cloud is where most of the companies are today. But sometimes I think because it's like easy solutions and easy and obviously cost effective. But the problem is that many of them don't probably follow the basic security rules. Sometimes experts that are implementing and configuring the systems also do not provide, or don't really know how to implement and configure them properly. So it's not something that you should have one size fits all and just, okay, this cloud is good, let's just buy it or implement it, configure it, and by default, let's use it. So it's something that I advise you not to do, obviously. Cloud security is still something that needs to be, there are not many experts, I think, in this area, and there need to be more because more is being used and more is in our cloud. More of us is in the cloud. So it needs to have protection, proper protection. And it's something that we think, okay, by now we should have protective measures by default, but still I think many of them need to make sure this is so, and I don't believe it is. Also, autonomous vehicles. Obviously, there's more and more vehicles that, and there will be more. They are out there, not only for personal use, but also, robo taxis and so on, and even, I don't know, trucks that are autonomous. They're still not very used because obviously there's still many problems with the algorithms of self-driving and so on. But we need to understand that even the ones that are already there, they have, I think, many privacy issues because they have cameras everywhere. Everything is being logged. It's like a smart meter, right? In our house, they can read whatever we do, where we go, how many people are there. They have cameras, so they can record the sound and they can record video. Obviously, they will state we are not recording anything, or whatever we are recording is not private or personal. But where is that? I don't see any proof of that clearly. I hope this is being tested, but we need to make sure we know about this, and especially because anyway, these vehicles can be used, can be hacked and can be used for harm. Obviously, if you can control a car that is being somewhere or various cars, this can be very, very dangerous. And I think we should be aware of the things, of the risks of this. And this brings us to AI, because obviously many of these systems will have AI embedded. I'm not an AI expert, as you know, or might know, but do we have the problem now? Okay, I'll tell you what I think. It's like nowadays something comes and everybody like wants to try and wants to do and wants to interact because someone said, oh, this plan is going to be amazing, it's going to change all the paradigms, and I believe it will. But the thing is, you should know a little bit about the problems that it still may have before you actually do it, right? You don't, if you don't know how to drive a car, you're just not going to drive a car. I mean, unless you want to obviously put yourself at risk or at others at risk. But usually you should know a little bit about the system, the risk that it has before you use it. And that information is not being given, and people are not requesting for it. So while you use ChatGPT or any other AI system, I mean, there are issues there, privacy issues. I'm sure many of them are already in the news, as you have heard. So we need to also be careful about what we really want from the systems. And obviously you should take advantage of the benefits, but also, okay, be careful about yourself, your protection, and your family, your friends, whoever is also there with you. So we know that AI can be really good for cybersecurity because obviously we can make sure we have more tools to be developed to identify attacks, identify vulnerabilities faster, solve problems faster. But we can also have the reverse. Everywhere, in every tool, we can do it bad or good. So in this case, we'll have more sophisticated attacks, and we have it faster because criminals are already into it, and we don't have enough cybersecurity experts and AI experts to actually develop the tools faster. So privacy is in danger very much. So we don't know what kind of data they have about us, even if we don't interact with it. Data can be gathered from many, many, many different parts. Other people can put data about ourselves as well. Can feed the monster, as I say, without really knowing clearly what is there. Transparency is a must in these things, and I don't see it. And obviously misinformation can create a lot of sophisticated attacks, fake news, fake videos, fake recordings. So without being too much paranoid, but we need to be careful about this and make sure we know what is going on and while using these systems, and also making other people aware that may not be so easily aware about this and can be impacted, like children, like people that are not really so easily, are more vulnerable, let's say. So this is something that obviously is already here and needs to be taken care of. And about post-quantum cryptography, so we may think, okay, this is very difficult because quantum is already kind of here, but it's not here in a, massively like ChatGPT came very quick. But it is coming fast. It is also coming fast, and once it does, we need to be prepared for that. We have algorithms that are kind of against attacks regarding quantum. So we need things that can be resilient in order that after we have a quantum cryptography, then we don't really have to stop everything, all the transactions that we are doing because all the algorithms will be broken. But there are already some algorithms that are resilient to the attacks that can be made, and there has been a context already. And so, my message is obviously not being an expert in this, but my message is okay: explore and know about it now. If you have a company or if you have a group working on these things, you need to know about, okay, what can I do in order to protect myself now? What is my strategy in order to be able to not be affected by quantum or quantum attacks that may come? And then we cannot obviously finish without talking about ransomware and connect this with obviously phishing attacks and the human factor. I know many times we want to focus more on technology, develop solutions that work, that really, even preferably automated without the human in the loop. But the fact is, we are building this for ourselves, to improve ourselves, support ourselves, protect ourselves. So we need to make sure we focus on one of the most common and most disruptive attacks nowadays, especially in healthcare, but not only in healthcare, which is ransomware. And so it's very difficult to detect. The detect is not difficult, it's difficult to prevent, basically. and how do we prevent it? Because it integrates a lot. It starts with the human, so human clicking a phishing email or clicking a link, clicking malware. So this is very difficult to predict, to prevent it. So we need to make sure we try to develop solutions that are ransomware resistant. So in a way, have security and privacy integrated and are transparent enough for the user to understand that there's something wrong with this message and this is okay. This is very difficult. It's a problem that is going to carry on, especially now with the AI sophisticated attacks that we can devise and define. This is also going to be very difficult. So obviously you can say, okay, we need education, more education and awareness. I think this obviously needs to be there. How we do it is also an issue, and specifically to adapt it to different types of populations, as you saw, but this needs to be there. But something else also needs to be there. Maybe AI will also help us in this. We need for innovative thinking, multidisciplinary thinking, and in order to face this. Otherwise, this will continue to grow up and be successful. And as you know, we have organized crime focusing on these kind of things. They are ahead of us, and we need to always go after, and that's not good. And we also have trust. So trust in people, trust in machines, or not trust at all. So what I call trust or not to trust. So trust versus zero trust. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think we can put them together. So depending on the context, I'm sure we need to build solutions and technology that are trustable, that inspire a sense of trust in the user, especially for healthcare. If they want to benefit from all this technology, they need to have some sense of trust, sense that they really are benefiting from it. They trust that the security is there, their privacy is there, and so on. But we also need the zero trust technology architectures that really test everything, verify everything, authenticate closely everything, so to make sure that nothing escapes, especially again with artificial intelligence and the ways things can be put in very easily, seemingly deep fake and in a way that looks really legitimate. So how can we identify that it is not? So continuous monitoring, continuous authentication, continuous testing, but also, I know this is very difficult to integrate, obviously, but I think this needs to work like this. It's not something that's one thing or the other. It needs to be embedded, both of them together. And so I hope you're still all awake. Over there is not night yet, here it is. But I want to finish kind of where all begins. It's in us. It's about us trying to support us, improve us, and so on. So again, we should focus on digital identities. How do we define ourselves, interact with the systems, authenticate to the systems, and so on? For me, again, each interaction is unique and depends on many factors. It is something like we are at the door, and how are we going to enter the door is very important. And for that, we need also to have basic education, basic rules. We have to know, we have to give people, everybody is interacting with technology. Again, they need to know the basic problems, the risks they have while doing it. I think there's no way around that. Once they enter the door, okay, enter the system, enter the door. Okay, so what we need to keep monitoring. Okay, what's going on? Monitoring everything, trying to see every move, every control. Anyway, here regarding GDPR, it is mandatory for us to register everything, every activity, in case something bad happens, in order to prove, okay, we did all the measures that were supposed to be done in order to protect ourselves, but something happened. You need to have means to prove that, and you can do that only with logs, right? The actions that were performed. And then ending in a more human note, let's say, because sometimes I see that in research, but I'm sure in companies is the same. We need to pass the word. We need to pass the message. If we are having problems in some area, maybe another department or next door already solved that, and that's the solution. So we really need to talk with each other. I know it's difficult. I'm a researcher too. I'm from a technical background. It's difficult sometimes to reach the other group or the other door and our colleagues and say, okay, what do you think about this? Even if they are not from the area, what do you think about this? What problems do you have? What What do you think they can do? So especially in a big organization, if they don't know what the other is doing next door, and if the message doesn't pass, then obviously it's difficult. Things will be slower and probably put more money and more time to work. So in cybersecurity, that's very important. Obviously, you need to share, okay, if you have a database of vulnerabilities, if some problem happened to you yesterday, probably should share what is the problem so others don't fall for it or others can actually solve it. So I know we are still humans, although we want to give our power to AI, I think we shouldn't do that. So we should still be humans and make the most of these powers, AI, other technology that we have. But still, we need to know about ourselves enough in order to know how to protect each other, us and each other. And that's it. Thank you so much. I'm sure you may have many questions or not. Let's see. I hope it was useful. And thank you so much for your attention. Please let me know, contact me if you need anything. And now, if you want. Okay, I'll stop sharing now. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for your talk. We have time just for a single question.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No, okay.
Hi, Anna. Thank you for presentation. I have a philosophical question concerning, you said that you mentioned in the challenges that the human factor is very important in ransomware, for example. But what do you think of this, how this human factors or these human factors impact the other areas you mentioned, for example, AI or trust or non-trust?
Okay. So yes, it's not a philosophical question, I think. It's very hard to answer, and that's the problem. But yes, so ransomware is obvious because it usually starts with some human interaction, right? So for others, it's the same. So in AI, somehow someone developed it, right? Somehow the models just didn't appear from the sky. There was human intervention. Data was inserted by humans. So I understand that after that it can go without humans, obviously. But there is always a human intervention, even if in systems that we think are automated, because there's no point in having a system logging things, monitoring things, if then someone won't go there and look for it. Obviously, it can be a machine going looking for it, but then the answer in the end is always us. Okay, how does a team of cybersecurity respond to an incident? It needs to be a team of people. Obviously they need data, they need technology, they need all these things. But in the end, in a company, how do you recover from an incident? You need actions performed by people. You need stuff that you need to be doing, like calling some person or external team outside or backup site, or maybe I'm going out from the question that you mentioned. But for me, human factor is still everywhere. I mean, I don't see a system where a human is still not needed. You have robots, but still you need to control them somehow. I would suggest, even if you have AI systems that are autonomous somehow, they need to be always controlled by humans. Okay, you need to make sure, even if it is for ethical purposes, privacy purposes, you need to have ways of doing that. Otherwise, you lose control of everything. And how to do that, as I told you, we need to bring more people to these areas. Technology, cybersecurity, we need to have more people, different people coming and help us doing that. Because then we will know more about the problems and we will hopefully have more innovative solutions about solving them. But yes, human factor has always been there, will always be there. But at the moment, I think we are stuck. We are stuck in trying to kind of knowing about ourselves enough in order to make sure we integrate that into the solutions that we build. I think we're trying to more and more, it's my opinion, okay? I think more and more we're trying to build things to distract ourselves about things, okay? And try, I don't know, export ourselves somewhere to other systems instead of still being humans, remain humans, and improve that, and make sure we still use our capacity as well, instead of just exporting it to a system or something. Although I'm for technology and AI, and I know this can have many improvements, especially lots of good impact in healthcare, definitely. Improve decision with a faster decision, better treatments, and so on, adapted for sure. But still, we should also remain ourselves and be able to know what we really want in the end, and not just, okay, now we have technology and now we don't do humans anymore. No, I don't think that this is good. Sorry, I think I went to another different path. It's just my opinion.
Great answer. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
So thank you, Anna, for your talk. It was
Thank
very
you so
interesting.
much.
We just don't have time for more questions, so if anyone wants to send the questions, I think Delberto can forward to you.
Sure.
Okay.
Contact me, no problem.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.